It's been weeks of rolling blackouts in the country. The Solidarity Research Institute has submitted a petition to Parliament on the power crisis. It's demanding that all regulatory or legislative obstacles to unlimited private power generation be removed urgently. For more on this, head of the Solidarity Research Institute, Connie Mulder. Mr. Mulder, thank you so much for your time. So tell us again, what are the main aims of your petition? I believe there are 4 points.
Yes, thank you, Hanley. I think the main aims is quite simply to stop the rolling blackouts. And for that, we've got a shortage in generation capacity at the moment of about 4,000 to 6,000 megawatts. And we've looked at international examples as part of our research, and we can solve this. But for that, we need action. We do not need more commissions. We do not need more planning. We need urgent action. So the first one that we're demanding is quite simply decentralize power generation as quickly as possible. The solution to load shedding lies on the roofs and homes of thousands of South Africans. It does not lie in the corridors of one or two big commercial projects. And this is the direction we should be going with power generation. We've theoretically got the whole legal framework in place to allow large-scale, small-scale generation, yet somehow the bottlenecks still keep appearing. So we're demanding just drop that. That doesn't make any sense. The second one would then be it's nonsensical to still have build limits or generation limits on IPP bid windows. This doesn't make any sense. We're limiting it to 2,600 megawatts per bid window when we're sitting in the dark. There's no reason. Just drop that bid window limit in general. And then the RMI PPPP, which is the Emergency Power Procurement program that was launched in 2019 and that has not managed to procure any power, should just be scrapped. That is the poster child for that was the 3 car power ships from Turkey that have several irregularities connected to them. We don't see any use for this project anymore. Thirdly, we're going to walk the walk here, not only talk the talk, but we're urging other institutions to do the same, is we need skills that can design, implement, maintain these renewable energy solutions. Now, our educational institutions, that's Soltech and academia, are busy retooling and making sure that they can reskill or skill up sufficient people. But we cannot do this alone. We need every single institution of learning in this country to say, but we need artisans that can do this, and we need to ensure that skills isn't the bottleneck. And then lastly, we looked at the example of Vietnam, which added 9,000 megawatts of solar power in 1 year, of which 6,000 megawatts was added in 1 month in December 2020 by using a feed-in tariff scheme. Now, feed-in tariffs aren't new by any means. It's used in more than 100 countries to add capacity. They, however, had the challenge of moving from coal to new energy. We just need to move to any energy, and we think for the short term, implementing a feed-in tariff scheme similar to the Vietnam-based model would really help in incentivizing and subsidizing your average citizen to put solar panels on their roof, because we need everybody. We need every school, every mall, every farmer, every mine to start generating electricity, selling it, and pushing it back into the grid for us to get out of this nightmare, get some economic growth going, and get people off the street corners with placards begging.
So you're talking about a lot of the regulations and the policies that government have put in place to regulate private power generation. You want to scrap those. Why do you think they've been so ineffectual?
For the simple reason, government has insisted on maintaining control over this process. And we're in a situation with a government that's stuck in the headlights, standing on the tracks with the train coming, and they're holding us and insisting that the train hit us all. Now, we want to get off the tracks. That is what we're saying. They can stay in the headlights if they want. We don't want to be on these tracks anymore. It's now possible with the 100 megawatt generation limit that we can remove that completely as well. As there's no reason to cap this. We need to radically get power into this grid. We cannot continue on the route that we are at. The economic impact is massive, and that's why, as an additional step, we've consulted, and our executive council has decided we're going to go into the power generation and distribution field as well. We're going to start generating power through our property development company, Canton. It's the guys who built Soltech, and they're now looking at saying we're going to start generating power and selling it. It's the best way to ensure job security for our members, but we're once again calling on everyone, all South African citizens, to start solving this problem. Unfortunately, we've now had 15 years of government trying to solve this problem. And after 15 years, we need to look in the mirror and face the facts. They either cannot or will not, or both. And that means we can't wait for them anymore. We need to do this.
So as much as you want to decentralize power production or generation, you still need government to allow you to open, essentially to open the doors for independent producers to do that, correct?
I think at the moment it's actually possible with a 100 megawatt cap limit. The sky should theoretically be the limit. What we don't understand is why this registration process isn't a simple online portal where you register and say, I want to generate power and sell it. So we're going through the process. We're trying to see where the bottlenecks are, and then we are hoping that a floodgate of applications can force open these bottlenecks. We cannot be approving 16 applications per month. That's not enough. We need hundreds of thousands of applications to go through to start generating. We might have some technical issues with the grid, but we think Eskom is adding capacity to get people connected to the grid as quickly as possible. They've basically said we'll allow some ground, or we're making ground available next to power stations for people who want to put solar farms up there or any sort of energy project. We're encouraged by those moves, yet for some reason it takes almost 300 days to get a permit from NISA to generate and sell, and this doesn't make any sense. So we're going through that process. If there are any bottlenecks that we can fix with litigation, we will not hesitate to go that route. South Africa cannot afford to sit on our hands anymore, and that's why we've got no options left, unfortunately. I wish there were cheap options out of load shedding. There aren't any cheap options left, but the only thing more expensive than fixing load shedding is not fixing load shedding.
So in terms of the skills development, obviously that's not an overnight fix. How long do you see that taking before we have adequate skills, from these institutions that you've named, but also, from other people identifying the opportunity in the market for skills specifically in energy generation and system maintenance?
Yes, as you correctly point out, those courses still need to be maintained. We're sitting, we've got a list of, I think it's 1,500 engineers who worked at Eskom, which we've handed to Minister Gordon, who do have the skills to implement power solutions. They've, in the meantime, fixed the power solutions in Vietnam and in the Philippines because they weren't welcome in South Africa. So we're hoping we've got the skills to a degree. What we're seeing or expecting is that there's going to be an explosion in the small-scale power generation field, that the whole sector is going to really take off. And that's why we're not that worried about solving the immediate crisis regarding skills, but we are going to need a lot of skills to basically move South Africa to a situation where power generation is done in a much more decentralized way, and where it's done sustainably in a much more decentralized way. I think academia already is looking at an energy engineering course that's in the final stage of accreditation. So we should be able to be delivering those skills within 2-3 years' time from our institutions. However, we're not nearly enough on our own. And that's why we think every other institution of learning should immediately start and say, but this is going to be the sector that really has promise, and that's going to create a lot of jobs directly as well as indirectly.
President Cyril Ramaphosa so often mentions this social compact and the need for more adequate public-private partnerships. However, we're seeing the private sector more and more take matters into their own hands, and instead of being reactive to government policy and failures of implementation, they're doing things on their own. For instance, just as an example, in the agriculture sector, private agri-businesses and farmers coming together to fix road infrastructure, and then afterwards giving the bill to the municipality. Hopefully, the municipality might pay them for work that they themselves were unable to do. And in this situation, we're seeing organizations like yourself, Solidarity, saying, well, let's take energy generation into our own hands. How do you think government is going to push back against that? Because surely that's them losing control to some measure.
Hanli, I sincerely hope they're not going to, but we fully expect that they will try, at least to maintain control. The harsh reality about the energy situation is that the horse has bolted. I don't think, even if they can try and maintain it through municipal wheeling arrangements or anything in that regard, but the energy situation is so dire at the moment, and the problem is it's going well. It's going well at the moment. It's at least going better than next year still. If we look at Eskom needing to decommission 10,500 megawatts of coal-fired power generation in the next 8 years, the horse has bolted here. Government can try and hold on. It's going to be a losing battle, and the dam wall will break. They've got the choice if they're going to be on the right side of this dam wall or on the wrong side. We urge them to please get on the right side. The only thing that they need to do is just allow us to solve this problem. You've had 15 years to try and solve it. it has not worked. And if there is any pushback regarding legislation, we'll most likely consider any legislation that now limits the amount of power that can be added to the grid as irrational given the situation. And then there are legal options. Now, I can't make promises on behalf of our legal team, but we've been good with, especially if you look at COVID regulations and COVID, where we've chosen our battles carefully and correctly. And this is one of the battles that we cannot afford to lose as South Africa. We drastically need to get energy. If otherwise, the world is quite simply going to pass us by, and we're going to deindustrialize this country and go back to a Middle Age or Stone Age economy.
So you're urging as many as possible companies, big, small institutions, malls, to submit applications for the generation, distribution and sale of power as soon as possible. Exactly what do they need to do for this to work?
So at the moment on NERSA's website, there is a form that you need to fill in if you want to register for a permit to generate, to distribute and distribute power. We urge everyone, it's not only companies, if you're an individual that wants to go and fill in that form and send it in, and let's just get lots of applications in the system at least, for the simple reason there are several bottlenecks, administrative bottlenecks, and we don't want people rolling logs in the road anymore. So let's force these bottlenecks open. If we can flood the application process, we can move it to what it should be for a registration for a permit, which is quite simply, you just need to register in a database. I'm going to sell power. Connecting to the grid is something that Eskom needs to do in any case, and they will need to check, which we're obviously for, is that the technical requirements are met, that you're generating power in a safe way, that you're not going to endanger anyone. But that can be done somewhere else than limiting it on an administrative basis already. So there's on NERSA's website, there's a form for applying for a permit to generate power. This goes up to 100 megawatt. Now, just for context, 100 megawatt is about 40,000 households. So that's more than enough. Any small-scale project should go and just get that permit and then say, but you want to sell to the immediate surrounding area. I don't think we're going to have a national electricity grid that's stable for a while at least, but we can ensure that several areas do not suffer economically from the rolling blackouts that we've been experiencing. And if we can just limit the damage at the moment, we can finally move to a situation where Vietnam is at the moment using feed-in tariffs and rooftop solar, which is they've got a problem. They've got too much power in their grid, and they're now having to shut down power generating plants to ensure that the grid doesn't get overloaded. Now, that's a problem that we would love to have. We're a richer country than Vietnam. We've got better solar resources and better wind resources. There's no reason we cannot be fixing this problem. The only thing that's lacking is political will at the moment.
Well, thank you very much for those insights and possibly some solutions for some people. Head of the Solidarity Research Institute, Connie Mulder.